Good morning, everyone. Today on Perspectives, our focus is 21st century policing. It's a new mindset in the law enforcement community, a different way of seeing things and developing the vision to accomplish law enforcement goals, finding solutions for problems like combating violent crime versus just generating activity and statistics. In our area, 21st century policing has materialized as the Gulf Coast Technology Center. The Mobile Police Department began an intelligence-led policing initiative in 2013 and created the Cyber Intelligence Unit in June of 2015. It has now grown into its own division or section within the police department. A cybercrime investigator or specialist can look at various crimes ranging from hacked or damaged file systems on computers to crimes against kids. Cybercrimes are criminal offenses committed using the computer and or via the internet, or otherwise aided by various forms of computer technology, such as the use of online social networks to bully others or sending sexually explicit digital photos with a smartphone. The Gulf Coast Technology Center is a collaborative effort. The Mobile Police Department and more than 18 law enforcement agencies, along with members from the private sector and academic institutions. The center's aim is to further enhance the tools and resources law enforcement uses each day to keep our communities safe. Now, you may remember there was a scare earlier this school year as two local campuses were targeted with threats in Mobile County, Theodore High School and Clark Shaw Magnet. While digging for answers, we learned what worked to stop a potential tragedy. In tracking down the threats on social media, law enforcement used cyber technology and 21st century policing. Fox 10 News reporter Tyler Fingert filed this report.
The threats at two Mobile schools more than just words for students and families.
My heart dropped because the idea of that happening here.
Knowing that you don't know who it is, or where it's coming from, that's concerning.
That's exactly how Mobile police feel. Commander Kevin Levy with the Cyber Intelligence Unit says when they learned of the threats, they immediately went to work.
Most threats are never carried out, but it's not our job to decide which one's real and which one's not. So we investigate every one of them, use every tool that we have available to us to help mitigate that threat as quickly and as practically as possible.
The Cyber Intelligence Unit's job is only getting harder as more people get online, and some people use anonymous social media sites like the one in the Theodore High School threat case.
Everybody is using social media as a platform to communicate, and unfortunately, with every effort to communicate legitimately, there are those out there that try to use social media and web platforms to communicate in ways that are not acceptable.
MPD's quick work stopped both threats before it could turn into action. The Theodore High School suspect was arrested before classes even started. Police issued an arrest warrant for the 7th grader accused of making the threat to Clark Shaw.
It's unfortunate that this day and age people are utilizing these types of tools to send these types of messages, a lot of time just as a prank, or they think it's funny. And our message from the police department is they're not funny, they're not a prank, and we will investigate every single one of them.
And that was Tyler Fingert reporting. Now, joining us this morning to share more about 21st century policing here on the Gulf Coast, Kevin Levy, commander of the Mobile Police Department's Cyber Intelligence Unit. Jeremiah Moody, cyber specialist with the Mobile Police Department, and Andy Gatewood, director of security for the Mobile County Public School System. And we'll talk to our first guest right after the break this morning. Perspectives continues in just a moment. And welcome back to Perspectives. Kevin Levy, commander of the Mobile Police Department's Cyber Intelligence Unit, joins us now. He was appointed to the police departments there in Mobile to commence the cyber intelligence operations back in June of 2015. And he served as its commander ever since, handling the long-term strategic planning and vision for the division. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
21st century policing, and you sort of describe it as a new change in mindset. And I think one of the terms you use, mindsets in motion. Tell us exactly what we're talking about when we're looking at this new thought process in policing work.
Well, I find it actually somewhat apropos that the name of the show is Perspectives, because really what we're talking about is changing the perspective, the way that we see things. And so moving away from traditional standard checking a box or looking for a particular pattern to go in that same direction every single time, and really looking at what is the problem we're trying to solve. And so we're outcome driven. We're looking at solving those problems and what types of tools, resources, training can we give to our officers so that they can better perform to achieve that outcome in a non-standard or non-traditional way. And that really is the mindset change, is being able to look at things from a different perspective and seeing both sides of every story so that we understand what the true problem is.
How does it start and how does it work differently from what policing work had been in the past?
Well, I can give you a pretty specific analogy. If you can imagine a net, in the past, if you were looking for a certain group of individuals or a particular vehicle or something of the sort, perhaps you would cast a fairly wide net to drive down and look and see what you could capture in that net. When in fact, with intelligence-driven tools and technology and the right workforce who's been trained properly, you can be very specific and very surgical. And so the side effects of that are a quicker apprehension, quicker identification of the offender in that case. And our real goal is to prevent something from happening. It's not so much about the arrest, although that's part of it. But if we can prevent a crime from happening, well, that's the best way to reduce crime, rather than just apprehend somebody after. But if a crime has occurred, being able to take that person off the street much more efficiently, much quicker to prevent future crimes from happening is also a benefit of intelligence-led policing.
And you talk about that, preventing it from happening in the beginning, and that's what one of the reports that we feature there showed, how you were able to bring information and the people together to work this particular situation out prior to something happening.
Well, I think one of the underlying initial creation purposes for the Gulf Coast Technology Center was just that, a collaboration. Bring the partners in ahead of time, bring people in who all have a vested interest in keeping Mobile, the Gulf Coast safe, and allow them to work together. And you'll be talking to some of those partners and some of those people, but it's truly worked very well. What begins as a handshake all ends with the same common result. We just want to keep our community safe. Law enforcement cannot do the job alone anymore. We need the help of the community. We need the help of our private and public partners, and we need the help of academic institutions, both working with our schools and also looking for the future of who's going to take these roles on as law enforcement professionals.
Tell us how it happened. 2013, I think the initial dialogue and conversations put together this thought process of what we were trying to work towards, this Gulf Coast Technology Center.
So the chief at the time, James Barber, who's now the public safety director, basically began a mandate in 2013, working with the city, working with the mayor to begin a vision of intelligence-led policing. And if you fast forward a couple years to when I came to the police department and had an opportunity to begin serving in this capacity, really to take that model of what the vision was and sort of turn it into a reality in the cyber forefront. And so dealing with new tools, new and emerging technology, digital forensics, training investigators to look at things of even how to investigate something on social media, which is a non-traditional approach. It's not the way we used to do things, but we're adapting and learning new strategies so that we can be more effective as crime-fighting investigators and also a support mechanism to not only our police department, but to all of the surrounding agencies and partners at the center.
And speaking of partners, you've got 18 different law enforcement agencies involved, and then you expand it to other partners.
Yeah, so it's a really cool concept, truly a grassroots effort where we just went out into the community and said, hey, we all have a common interest here. We all want the same outcome, which is a safer community. And we began working with other agencies, breaking down barriers, communicating, sharing information, finding out that a lot of us are working the same types of things and maybe reducing duplicate resources. But really 18 different agencies, federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies. We initially partnered with the Secret Service and the Sheriff's Office here in Mobile County and in Baldwin County, and we grew from there. And we have many different agencies that we work with now, all valued partners who show up every day, have representation there every day, and we've expanded that out not only to the academic institutions that we run internships with or we work on research projects with. The school system, of course, has been a big partner of ours from the beginning, and then, of course, also looking at public and private partnerships, businesses, and even homeowners in the area who have some sort of value that they can add to the overall effort, and then to model that and sort of relate relate that to other centers around the country that are beginning to do the same sort of effort and sort of create a network of collaboration, which is truly what the vision of that change mindset really is.
And when you think about what you're sharing, you would think that the public and the community would be excited about what's happening, because we can hopefully prevent crimes from happening or solve them very quickly. And we'll be talking about that throughout the program this morning, being one of the areas. Now, when Perspectives continues this morning, we're going to bring in and meet one of our cyber specialists. We'll talk more here on Perspectives in just a moment. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Perspectives. We're talking this morning about 21st century policing and cyber technology. Kevin Levy, commander of the Mobile Police Department's Cyber Intelligence Unit here. And now joining us, Jeremiah Moody, who is a cyber specialist with the Mobile Police Department. Of course, thanks for joining us here and being a part of this dialogue. Kevin, tell us, how does it work? How do you bring in this new breed of mindset, as you're saying, mindsets in motion, when we're talking about cyber specialists into the law enforcement picture?
It's a pretty interesting task, because typically when someone thinks about law enforcement, you know, they see the front lines of law enforcement, which is obviously the biggest and most important part of what a police agency does. But sort of behind the scenes, there are a lot of other jobs and roles that are important. And so one of our tasks is to get out into the community, to go to the schools and to talk to people that are interested in criminal justice, or interested in law enforcement, or interested in computer science, or whatever their background is. It's not limited to any one, but maybe want to take a different aspect, or their passion is slightly different. They all want to provide some sort of service, and so we look for that. We do have a competitive internship program, and we look for people who might share in that passion, might see the benefit in the community, and want to serve in some form or fashion. And if we take somebody that has that interest and we can get them trained, ultimately at the end of the day, we can start recruiting more and more cyber specialists.
And Jeremiah, of course, you are a cyber specialist. What attracted you to the job?
So graduated from University of Mobile in computer information systems. So I knew technology, computer route is the route I wanted to go, but I also have a heart for people and just love our community, love people. And after talking to Commander Levy, he kind of provided the perfect way to intertwine those two things. One of the things he said to me when talking about our internship was, the reason the building that we're in has all these windows is so that we can look out and we can see the people that we're doing this for. And I knew immediately that I was going to be able to use technology and also be around people and do things for the community. And so I knew immediately that was where I wanted to be.
Give us an idea of what you do on a daily basis.
So anything technology-wise, from managing networks to allowing and assisting these guys in some of the technologies they use to do the work that they do. So it could be as simple as someone's printer's messed up and I go over and help them, or hey, we need help, can you assist me on this? And so really a broad spectrum of things that, you know, I kind of get to experience, get to be around and just soak up and take in all these different things. When
you think about when you were younger and looking towards the future, did you ever see how you could embrace your love for the computer arena into law enforcement? Did you see that coming?
I did not. So again, I knew I enjoyed software, I knew I enjoyed programming, and the law enforcement route was not necessarily something that I kind of saw myself doing, but it ended up being a really cool way to kind of take those two things, combine them together, and still do something I love, but also leave work every day and know that I kind of helped create an impact in this area.
You know, when you talk about one of the mottos, of course, for a lot of the forces, protect and serve, and that serve aspect is something that's very important to a lot of folks in law enforcement. So you're getting a chance to bring what you love to the table, as well as being able to make a major impact. Tell us about how that program works, where you're able to bring in the future cyber specialist.
Yeah, you know, one of the biggest things, and I think, you know, Jeremiah hit it on the head there when he said he didn't really have a vision for being in law enforcement per se, but when he saw what it was and he was exposed to it, he developed a passion for it. And that's one of the biggest challenges is, you know, trying to get past the typical stereotype of what a law enforcement job is and really say that there's law enforcement in the 21st century is a lot different. And give interns and give people from outside environments the opportunity to see what it is we do on a daily basis and let them see and sort of touch a few things and figure out if they have a passion. And it's kind of like medicine in a way. There's so many different disciplines within just the general title. Well, it's the same thing within the cyber world. There's so many different areas that one could provide support. And so allowing them to come in, give them some projects, give them problems to solve, maybe something based on a case that's gone through the court system, but give them some facts that they can try and assimilate into a problem-solving technique. And when they develop a passion for it, you can see it in their eyes, you can hear when they talk about it. They don't want to leave at the end of the day, and that's truly what it is. Law enforcement is something that it really takes a special passion for wanting to do it right, to have a heart, to understand people. And intelligence-led policing also is a lot about knowing stories. And when you collect intelligence, when you collect information, it's not necessarily like you see on TV. It's looking for that information, that one fact that's going to solve that problem. But you've got to develop relationships. You can't go out into the community and expect people to give information to you or to share information if there's not a trust or a legitimacy that has to be formed through that presence in the community. And that's one of the things by reaching out not only to our academic partners, but just to other entities in general and doing things out there, we develop that presence where people say, hey, you know what, this is a good thing. And everybody wants to be part of something good.
That's
you just
right.
have to give them the opportunity to do it. And that's a lot of what we do.
Now, do you have to lock into where you have Jeremiah's background as the main portal into that operation, or are there other areas where people can get into cyber technology without being a computer-based education foundation?
No, actually, it's all of the above and then more, because cyber specialist for us is really a general term, but within it you have technicians. He works primarily in a technical role, providing support, but a little bit of analysis. We have some people that are straight support personnel, others that are doing the analyst type work. And so there's a lot of different roles, but no, if you ask me, hey, what are the first few questions I might ask somebody that comes into the program and to determine really if they're in the right places, do you have the ability to develop good relationships? Are you passionate about this type of work? And do you see a need in the community to do it? And are you willing to be trained? And if you can do those three things, I can pretty much train you to do anything. I can get you some schooling. Yes, it helps to have a technical background if you're going into a technical field.
Right.
But what you can't really train somebody to do is to understand people and to have that drive to form the relationship. And that really is the different mindset in 21st century policing.
All right. Well, we thank you, Jeremiah, for sharing your part of the story, and we're going to talk more about this 21st century policing when we come back. And then joining us on the set at that time will be the Director of Security for the Mobile County Public Schools. We'll meet and talk with him more as we talk about the Gulf Coast Technology Center partnerships. Perspectives continues in just a moment. And welcome back. We're talking about 21st century policing. Of course, Kevin Levy, the commander of the Mobile Police Department's Cyber Intelligence Unit, is here with us, along with just met Jeremiah Moody, a cyber specialist with the Mobile Police Department. And joining us now, Andy Gatewood, who's the Director of Security for the Mobile County Public School System. And gentlemen, thanks again for being a part of this. And of course, we've talked to Andy before about the changing nature of security with school systems. Talk about how this partnership is something that's good for both sides.
So, I mean, it's good for the community. And I feel like we are able to provide a technical resource, a response mechanism to help support the school system. And this really goes to show how the partnership works, because it's not anyone's responsibility, it's all of our responsibility. And so if there's something we can do to provide a resource and there's a need that they have and they provide a great resource for us as well, then we can work together to do that. And that's really what you see here in this partnership.
And Andy, when this information was brought to you, the Gulf Coast Technology Center, and the concept of what this 21st century policing was all about, what was your response?
Absolute excitement. I tell you, Commander Levy has done an amazing job, and his staff. We routinely work with them. He has his staff is just well versed, and they don't miss. If we have these issues, these threats, and things that happen, technology has added a whole new aspect to not only policing, but to the way that my staff deals with security in the school system as a whole. My phrase is that our security business is a living thing. We have to be able to move and change with the times. And one of the things that I find refreshing is in Jeremiah's earlier interview, he talks about the community, because the school is a big part of the community. And these gentlemen, these guys are concerned about not only catching the bad guys, but improving the community as a whole and actually stopping something before it happens. We have had some the thing now with technology is you can sit in your home at night and post something on the internet and without ever actually seeing the person or the victim or the folks that are being affected. And these guys, the Technology Center has been able to combine all kinds of resources and community partners and just absolutely assist us in solving all of these issues that we've had. We have potentially stopped several things from happening before they ever start. So
that's very important. And of course, Andy, you have a law enforcement background. Did you see this type of policing in the 21st century coming in your experience with what you had seen, and especially dealing with younger people and how they're using technology today?
It has evolved quickly, quite frankly. Once the cell phone age and being able to sit, like I say, in the privacy of your own home and do these things and get on the internet and social media sites, and not only social media but texting and all those kinds of things. We're in a technological society right now. I think that we have certainly with my own kids, sometimes I say, you guys don't have any conversations anymore. Everything is through text messaging. So it has certainly evolved quickly. But the good thing about the Gulf Coast Technology Center is they've evolved with it. They've provided a resource not only for the city of Mobile but the entire county, and other counties. I think, as Commander Levy has said, we have had, again, worked closely with them. Anytime we've had a threat, a social media threat or anything of that nature, they have been able to resolve it in most, probably all cases, before we even got to the point where anything was supposed to happen. So, and that just, my responsibility is providing a safe environment for 50,000 plus students and 7,200 staff members. So we take that very seriously, and Commander Levy and the Gulf Coast Technology Center and folks like Jeremiah just is another very important part of that process and a part of our community that we can rely on for that.
Jeremiah, do you see your age being a plus for you to where you can think and relate to some of the younger people, especially with this partnership with the school system?
Absolutely. I think we are living in such a digital age. Things move very quickly. It's within a few clicks I can have something sent to my house, and or I can have a post. And I believe being around that has allowed me to kind of relate and kind of allow me to assist.
Very important.
Commander Levy in the school system.
Having that type of variety of input into the Technology Center. How is the mindset that you're now, the mindset in motion that you're proposing to others, how is it being received?
I think it's been received really well. People are trying to understand the concept, and I'd almost be remiss if I didn't bring up something very important that Andy had brought up earlier, and that is, the Gulf Coast Technology Center serves to be a one-stop shop for resources, but it is not the end-all, be-all one-stop shop. There are so many other things. Our police department in the city of Mobile and in other agencies, we have a director, Graves, who's over strategic initiatives. Like, there's follow-up and there's preface to these things, to get into the schools, to be able to take these programs and do other things. So there's a whole picture that has to be told in the story, and that's all part of the mindset. So intelligence-led policing is a big part of the Gulf Coast Technology Center, but it's not the only part of it. There are other things that have to be put into place, because when you identify problems, you then have to come up with solutions, and they're constantly working to find those solutions.
Well, gentlemen, I thank you so much for being a part and sharing this information today. It's an exciting time to me as a person in the community looking at law enforcement and looking at the ways that future problems are being addressed. And so we thank you, and continued success with the Gulf Coast Technology Center. Commander Kevin Levy, and of course Andy Gatewood with our school system, Mobile County Public Schools, and Jeremiah Moody, our cyber specialist. We thank you all for sharing your information today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And of course, if you want more information, there it is to touch bases with the Technology Center. Of course, always looking for more partners from the community. We ask you to join us here again on Saturday morning at 9 for Perspectives as we discuss those issues and seek solutions. Have a great week.